Oh, morning, Pete.
Good morning.
Here we are at Scott Base, and wondering what you're doing here.
Well, Tricia, we're part of the Learnz program. So Darren, the Learnz teacher, and I are here with 4,200 students from schools around New Zealand who are participating in a field trip looking at energy in Antarctica. So we're looking at the wind farm that Meridian are building just near Scott Base, just on the hill up here.
Yeah.
And we've been out to Cape Evans looking at how Scott used energy when he was here 100 years ago. We've been out to a sea ice camp to see how they provide all the energy for their science activities there. And we've been looking at Scott Base to see how they find energy for the base and process water and their sewage and all that sort of stuff.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We're going to have a look at that site when I get back home.
That's a good idea.
And I've heard of a good story of yours that you experienced a couple of years ago when you were here. Can you tell us about that?
That's my penguin story.
Absolutely.
Well, that was a great story. We were on the way back from the dry valleys in Antarctica, just across McMurdo Sound here, coming back to Scott Base. And the pilot decided that he'd seen some penguins down by the sea ice edge and decided it'd be a good idea to drop down and see what they were up to. So we landed beside the sea ice and parked the helicopter a good 200 metres away from the sea ice. And then we walked across to the sea ice well away from the penguins, because you're not supposed to be within, I think it's 15 metres.
Right.
So we were 20 or 30 metres away from the penguins and sat down beside the sea ice edge, and within 5 or 10 minutes all these penguins, both the large emperor penguins and the smaller Adelie penguins, they all came up to meet us. So we were sitting, there's about 6 of us sitting on the ice, sitting on our bottoms with our legs out, and I was sitting there with two large emperor penguins on either side, looking at me straight in the eye, and little Adelies running around.
Fantastic.
And they were jumping in and out of the water, and then all of a sudden the sea went absolutely calm, because the Adelies had been jumping in and out of the water and playing and having lots of fun, and then suddenly the water was flat calm, and we wondered what was going on. Then a few minutes later, 2 large orca whales came surfing up beside the water, so clearly the penguins knew what was happening. And then a few minutes later they all got back into their business again, and they were having lots of fun.
Fantastic.
And then when we were about to leave, we turned around and walked back towards the helicopter, which was parked a good 200 metres away.
Right.
And when we got close to the helicopter, we realised there was a ring of emperor penguins standing around the helicopter, just looking in the door. And as we approached the helicopter, the pilot said, "Oh my God, I left the keys in it." It was hilarious.
Needless to say, you got back home safely.
Yeah, we got home safely.
Oh, that's exciting. Well, thanks for sharing the story with us, and it's good to hear what you're doing here too. So,
It's been good talking to you.
Yeah, thanks, Pete.
Thanks.